joined us today with a very interactive session that we are going to plan for all of you. Today, we'll be covering the GST and the GST part of it, where Jigar sir will help us guide through what all we need to cover for our year end. But before we start, I would like to give a short introduction of myself. My name is Harsh, and I'll be the one who will be co-hosting this particular webinar together with KPN sir that we have with us and Jigar sir. And in between, what I like to say to all the audience here is that on the left, you can see questions and chats option. Either in the question or chat option, feel free to drop in your questions where Jigar sir or KPN sir and one product support team from Zoho Books will be helping you answer with feature related and the domain related questions as well. So moving now, I would like to give a short introduction about Jigar sir as to what he can bring on the table for us. So he's a chartered accountant, practicing chartered accountant for the last 9 to 10 years, and he is the chairperson of SKRT and Company. And also, apart from that, he is very technologically oriented. He is someone who has technologically advanced everything. Personally, as I know him, I know that even when it comes to presentation, he keeps on trying as to what all new advancements or technologies that is being there. So that's how technologically savvy he is. And he would also like to say that what technology plays an important role in our current chartered accountancy domain as well. Moving ahead, our special co-host with us is KPNG. He is the director of Zoho Finance, and on top of that, he takes care of capability making when it comes to Zoho Finance model. Then he also takes care of the complete influencer marketing when it comes to Zoho Finance, and also he has been working with so many multinational companies. He has partnered with Big Fours and also is working with 150 plus chartered accountants in and around in his career. So be assured that we are in very good hands. So without further ado, I would like to request KPNG and Jigar ji to take over the panel from me. Thank you so much. Jigar sir, I'm giving you the share option now.
Yes.
So very good morning to all of you. I'm very happy to be a part of this webinar. Jigar, welcome to this. In fact, your association with us is almost going to touch 8th year now. And as far as my memory goes, I think this is the first time we both are in the same webinar.
Yeah.
So after 8 years of association, and thank you. I am very, very happy for the same.
Yes.
And of course, to the audience, I would like to say that CA Jigar Shah is a very, very young, enterprising chartered accountant with a lot of technical knowledge. And when it comes to his profession, I don't have to make any special mention about his capabilities. And that is why he is here today. In fact, I would like to definitely make a mention about him that he has helped more than 150 companies to move on to a technology atmosphere and automated so many things, leveraged the technology, started using a lot of applications within their organization and also for their clients. So without wasting or making you wasting time or making you wait, let me take the privilege in asking the first basic questions which every business owner or accountant should have when it comes to year-end closing or financial year account closing. Jigarji, my first question to you is, do you really advocate that when you when you are getting into this year-end account closure, even before that, should we really need to have a checklist as to, which will help to have a smoother year-end closing so that we are not missing out anything? Probably you can have the list and subheads of that and all those things. So would you recommend the business owners or accountant fraternity, out of your experience, that yes, one should have a checklist? And if you, I am not expecting you to elaborate all that factors in the checklist, but at least 2 or 3, if you can mention, or maybe 5, that is very, very, which will play a vital role in the year-end finalization. That will be great, Jigarji.
Correct. So yeah, definitely a checklist is a must. First of all, good morning, everyone. It is a complete pleasure to be over here.
Here I am done.
Yeah. Hello.
Jigar, please go ahead.
Yeah, it was a complete pleasure to be over here. I understand this is my fourth or fifth session with Zoho, and I also realized that this is my KP and I'm doing this together for the first time. So great to do that. As with regards to checklist, definitely it is a must. A lot of times, what I can see as an auditor is that the assessee or the client is waiting for the auditor to come in, give them a checklist, and then they will start working on things, right? But
Yes.
essentially, the checklist remains the same. So there are few things that if you keep ready before the auditor comes in, it really helps the auditor. The things can move fast because once again, things are quite repetitive. If I have to take up five primary things, one is of course the bank reconciliation. Second is confirming your customers and vendors. With Zoho, we are easily able to take out AR aging and AP aging reports, right? And then we see that okay, there are old customers lying, old vendors lying. It's very important to confirm. In fact, in Zoho in few of our clients, what we have done is we are set up a system wherein automatically every quarter the statement will go to the customer or vendor for their confirmation, and it is by
Through
the
the
system.
portal,
No,
through the portal feature that we have.
yeah, so photo feature is also there. Second, you can also have a system wherein it gets mailed to the
Yes, yes,
customer and
yes,
vendor,
yes,
right? So
yes.
automatic emailing is something that we have set up for our clients. This has really helped us. All right. So second and third will be customer vendor. Fourth is your GST reconciliations. That is, we are going to speak about that in detail. And fifth is your TDS payable and TDS receivable reconciliations. We are going to speak about TDS payable GST reconciliations in this session. And then apart from that, definitely there are certain line items like depreciation, deferred tax, like provision for tax, your taking off your inventory, etc. All those line items are there. If I see my checklist would have broadly, it will have 15 20 areas, 15 or 15 to 18 areas to be covered, which is I have in my audit. And then each area would have 4 to 5 points to be have for documents to be uploaded, right? So yes, checklist is a must. In this session, as you all know, this session is a part of a series. In this session, we will be specifically speaking about TDS payable, TDS receivable, and GST reconciliations. It will be an interactive session, so feel free to ask your questions via question tabs or chat. And I would just like to see if the chat is working. So I will need one hi from everyone so that I know that okay, you guys are over here, right? So if you
Yes.
all can send hi on the chat box, yes,
Yeah, yeah, it's happening now.
right? Good, great.
And
Hi
there will
Dipti,
be
hi
equal
Sakshi.
number of
Yeah.
queries also.
Yes. So, okay, why this is important is that, like, okay, we are taking a webinar, right? And I'm speaking with just on a screen, and I can see only KP, right? So, for me to really ensure that people are getting it, it really helps me if people are interactive on the chat box. So, I'll keep on asking questions on the chat box. Please reply to that. It really helps me. Okay. Yeah.
At least a thumbs up is expected.
Yeah. Thumbs up is expected. Correct. So now we will deep dive into the presentation. Uh, so this is what Harsh was speaking about. Okay, so this is a tool that I've used for creating the presentation. We are going to speak about taxation, and we'll start with TDS payable recons. So first of all, a pro tip. Okay, for TDS payable, there are two parts. There is a non-salary and there is a salary. Non-salary, everything is taken care of in books. For salary, it is taken care of in payroll. Now, before we start, one pro tip, and this is one of the latest feature in Zoho, is that you can enable TDS liability report. I'll show you what it does to you. Are you, first of all, on the chat box, if you are aware about TDS liability report in Zoho Books, wherein you can map your challans with your TDS liability. If you are aware about this feature, write yes. If you are not aware, write no on the chat box. Okay. So there are many people who don't know about this feature, right? So this is a very, very excellent feature. I mean, we are starting the financial year, at least from this financial year, you should definitely start using this. Okay. So how do you start this? First of all, you go to settings. You just check for duties and taxes. Just check for TDS, direct taxes. And over here, you will find this feature, enable TDS liability report. You tick mark this, and from which month you want to start using this. So if you are starting it now, you can do it from April 2025. You can also choose this to do for the last FI. Okay. Now, once you have done this, you will find one new section out here, which is the TDS section. This was not there earlier. Over here, what happens is your liability report will be there. This is April month. Is over here, right? Now you can either record or associate challan with this transactions. Now, once you record your challan, you will be able to tag all this transaction. Okay, that this particular challan has been used against which transactions, and this is essentially what we need when we are filing our TDS returns, right? So you will update your all your challan details, and then you will tag, okay, this being used for this is being used for this, etc., etc., etc. Okay. So this is how TDS liability report works. This is a precursor to there is going to be an functionality for filing of TDS returns, wherein we will be able to download a TXT filing feature from Zoho Books itself, and which we can use for TDS filing of TDS return, but that is still a work in progress. But they have already made this functionality live, wherein you can start mapping your challans with your TDS liability. This works very similar to record payment in GST section. We will be taking up that as well. And also, how do we record TDS liability in Zoho payroll? So it is very similar to that. If you have been using it, you will be able to get it. So this was one pro tip with regards to enable TDS liability report. Now, second thing, in the non-perspective, before you give it to the auditor, you want to check if you have done TDS returns on transaction where TDS is required to be done. Okay, I'll share my screen again. Yeah. So now we are doing TDS on transaction where TDS is required to be deducted. Because manually you may miss some of the transactions where TDS was required to be done, but it was not done. There is one more very useful feature wherein you can map a particular TDS into vendor master itself. So this really helps, right? Because then at a transaction level, you don't have to again and again apply your mind, what will be the TDS for this particular vendor. If you have mapped the TDS rate over year once, it will automatically come up. Okay. So I think TDS enable, I think I was able to create about TDS, enabling TDS register. And yeah, so now we will move ahead with how to verify whether the TDS which was required to be done has been done or not. Okay, I'll share my screen again. Yeah. So now, how do we verify whether you have done the TDS, whether where all TDS was required to be done or not? Okay. So the first thing that you have to do, this is a one-time activity that you need to do, is to create one view while exporting. Okay. So once again, this is a pro tip, is that you can actually, for all the exports that you want to do, you can have a template created. So whenever you are exporting anything from Zoho, be it from sales module, vendor module, expense module, or purchase orders, you can create a template. So my pro tip to you will be to create one template for this TDS information. And this template should have these fields. You can take a screenshot out here, but this is very important. Just you select all these items, bill ID, bill date, vendor name, etc. etc. And this is very important. What you need is a subtotal, okay? Not a bill amount total, not a item total. There are a lot of fields. What we specifically need is a subtotal in this view, okay? Now, once you have created this view, so once again, as I said, this is a one-time activity. You just created this once. Then you can do an XLS. You will have to do a download of 6 months. At a time, you can download for 6 months. Okay. You will select filter criteria as bill date and you will export this bills. Now you have exported these bills. So why this helps is that if you do it via a template, then it will download with lot of columns, which will be unnecessary columns, right? But this will give you only specific columns that you need. Over here, you will convert this to number. And the first thing that you need to do is remove duplicates of bill ID. So this is why bill ID is important, because what happens at the subtotal level, uh, even if there is one bill. So if you take example of this reliable services, okay, this is one bill which I can identify via bill ID. And this one bill is of total of 6,000 rupees, but it is repeating these values. Okay. So that is why what you need to do is duplicates at the bill ID level. And once you have done this, you have all your groundwork ready. Now you just have to run a pivot. Pivot में what you need is account कि this particular this or for which expense, for which vendor, how much amount I have paid to the vendor for the whole year. That will come up over here. And this is against which TDS name, professional fees, etc. And what was my TDS amount. Now, once you have done this, you just go to design, do not show subtotal, report layout, do not repeat all items, right? And you have this ready. So now you are getting, okay, what expense I have done, I have paid to which vendor, whether I have done TDS or not, and what are the sum amount over here. Now, where this helps you is now you just have to take simple filters and see whether you have missed out something where TDS was required to be done, but you have not done. Correct? Because this is giving you all the line items where all the TDS is done and at what rate. You can just do a division over here and see whether the correct rate has been mapped or not. Correct? So this is something which is very helpful. We use this for our ledger scrutiny in our firm. This really helps that in one go, we are really able to verify a lot of things at the bill module level. So I would like to take a pause over here. Do we have any questions so far that are required to be addressed?
Jigarji, we have one question in the chat. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The same one.
Yes. So as Vijay mentioned that you can edit the bill and add the TDS, and what you have done is I guess you have already made the payment of the full TDS amount to your vendor, right? So that amount is to be recovered from that vendor. So you'll have to first, if you have already recorded the payment against that bill, you will have to uncategorize that payment, update the TDS in that bill, correct? And then record the payment once again. Now you will have paid him extra because you have paid him full amount plus you have paid TDS. So that extra is recoverable from vendor and that will show up in your books that, okay, from this vendor, this is recoverable. Yes, Avanti. And by the way, I'm Jigar with a J, not G. Yes. Okay. I've noted down the steps, Mahima, over there. So I'll just show the screen again. Okay. What I'll do is I'll just show my screen again over here. You can take a screenshot of this. Create view in Zoho Books with required columns. I've already showed you required columns, and then you can download. Sakshi, on when while downloading, you will see for downloading, you will see top three over here. Yeah, you will see a three dots on the top right, and you can just export, and then you can do export bills, and then you can download the file. Okay. So now we will move to next. Now we will move to the expense module part. Shravan, you can in fact edit the TDS amount. So I'll just show you one. So if there is a bill that you have booked, and if you don't want to go by a default rate, you will see a pen icon over here, right? And you can edit the amount from here. So this is something which is doable. You can edit the amount. Yeah. So we will move ahead. We were at the expense module part of it. So I've already downloaded expense for you. Once again, it is a simple download that you need to do. This is all of expense that you have downloaded. You will have a vendor name, you will have an expense account, and you will have an expense amount, right? Once again, you just need to take a pivot, and then you will have list of expenses for against which we will have vendors and how much payment you have done to that particular vendor. And once again, you just go through this and you will, wherever TDS is required to be done, you need to do. For example, it is clear, meals and entertainment, no TDS is required to be done. So that is fine, right? Travel expense, once again, no TDS is required to be done. So once again, that is fine. Now, if subcontractor is there, and if this was more than 30,000, and if it was for one vendor, then I would have to do that TDS, correct? So bills and expense module, this is how we verify. In one go, you can verify for the whole year wherever you are required to do the TDS and whether that TDS is done or not. Okay. Any questions so far? So we'll move ahead. So this that was your expense module that was discussed. Okay. Now second is compare TDS summary report and go back. Yeah. Compare TDS summary report and TDS payable ledger. Okay. So you have in Zoho Books two reports. One is TDS summary report. Now this will give you quarter-wise, year-wise data of section-wise payments that you have done. Now the liability of TDS done should always reconcile with the TDS payable ledger. Once again, the thing to be noted is that the entries in TDS payable ledger should come only from the bill module. If there is any entry which has come in the TDS payable ledger via JV, then that transaction will not appear in your TDS summary report, and that may create a problem for you, right? So what you need to do is the credit done in TDS payable ledger should match with your TDS report. If you see in our books, it is matching. If this is not matching, then it is a matter of investigation. Then it means that there has been some TDS booked via some JV, or some of the record transaction has been done. Okay. And TDS payable ledger should have entries only from bill module. In Zoho, you can this transactions, if you click over this transaction type, it will filter up expense module and bill module. So expense will have only payment entries, right? And bill module will have all the credit entries. There should not be any credit entry apart from bill module. So this is also one check that you can run. Next, if we go, uh, then we go to salary. So in salary module, first of all, you should check if you are using Zoho payroll that where you have mapped your TDS payable ledger. Okay. Uh, so ideally, the ideal way to do is don't mix TDS payable of salary and non-salary together, because generally we make challan payments also separately. So in Zoho payroll, go to settings and change the ledger in which your salary entries are going. So you can create a separate ledger, TDS on salary, right? And map it over there. सर आपको उधर जाना पड़ेगा, तो सामने चले जाइए, उधर आप कैमरा में आओगे मेरे को देखने के लिए, तो इसके लिए मैं बोल रहा हूँ आप उधर चले जाइए या ऊपर देख रहे हैं सब साथ में.
Yeah, Jigar, you're audible.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So ideal to use TDS module in once again in Zoho payroll for recording challans. I'm not going into Zoho payroll as of now. But if you have managed these two things, then your TDS will be done. Okay. Now let us come to TDS receivable part. So there was one TDS payable part. Now let us come to TDS receivable part. So there is something known as TDS receivable summary report. So if you go to reports, okay, now this is TDS receivable summary report. Now there is a catch over here. The transactions will appear in this report only if you have booked TDS in the invoice when you are sending it to the customer. So if you have booked TDS in the bill, inside the bill, only then it will come up in this TDS receivable summary report. So when you are finalizing someone's books, what you have to do is, first of all, determine at what point is TDS receivable booked in your books of accounts and keep it standardized. So there are 3 points at invoice level. So whenever you are creating an invoice, you will book TDS over here, right? So it is at invoice level, right? So if you are booking it this means you are booking it at invoice level, and if you are booking it over here, then it is coming in TDS receivable summary report. The next is people would, now the problem with at invoice level is customers may not agree with the TDS rate defined in invoice. So in our few of our clients, my client would like that their customer would like deduct TDS at 2%. But when the invoice goes to the customer, they actually do it at 10%, right? Then this creates a problem because I have recorded 2% in my books, but the actual payment that I have received is after deduction of 10%. Second is, I mean, I have seen apprehensions wherein if you send a bill like this in PDF to your customer, then for some reason they would assume that 37,800 is the amount and they have to do TDS on this amount. So once again, this creates confusion, right? And then if you have marked your GST return as filed and if there is any change in TDS, then you cannot make that change because your invoice is locked. So these are some challenges at invoice level. Second is at customer payment level. So whenever you are recording a customer receipt from payment, you can map your TDS over there. So I'll just do one quick record payment entry, dummy entry, customer payment, and retain tax. You can click and you can select the amount. You can create the select the ledger in which you want this amount to go. Right? Yeah. Retain tax, you will select the ledger and you can update the TDS amounts over here. Right? So this is the second method of recording the TDS at customer payment level. But this requires back calculation at the time of categorizing payment entry. And TDS date will be equal to payment received date because it will be equal to the date on which you are receiving the payment. Now, it may so happen that the invoice is of FY 24-25 and you have received the payment in 25-26. So, you will not like your TDS receivable to go in FY 25-26. You will like it to be in 24-25 because you want to take your TDS credit in FY 24-25. So there is a jugaad way that we are doing at our firm is that we are creating a separate bank account for TDS receivable. And after sending the invoice to the customer, we do a record payment and we book all our TDS in this TDS receivable ledger. So first of all, this helps to standardize the process. In the ledger also, we can see the invoice and on the invoice date, we can see the TDS amount, right? And when I'm reconciling, when I'm doing a 26 AS reco, I need to download this TDS receivable ledger and reconcile the same. So TDS summary report is by default available. You don't have to enable it separately. It is there in the report section. Any questions in TDS receivable? Okay. Now, now let us move to GST reconciliations. Can we go ahead with GST reconciliations? Okay, so I need some thumbs up or yes. Okay. So first of all, in GST reconciliation, you need to do basics and groundwork. Okay. So what is the basic and groundwork before finalization? Ensure that all your GSTR 1 and 3B are filed. Okay. So if you go to Zoho Books, GST filing, If you see, our returns are not filed. So the first step that I need to do is I need to view returns and start filing them. Okay. And also, all my payment entries should be via GST payment tab. So if you go to this report module, you will see GST payments over here. Now, I'll just record one GST payment entry for you so you can see how we can do this. Right, so this is one GST payment entry that we need to do. So we need to just replicate this challan in your GST filing. Payment date is 22nd July. Challan date is also the same. It's 2024. CPI. That's this. 57,192. 41,130 and 57,192. Okay, so you will do one entry from here, and as you have recorded this entry, it will go in your banking module automatically as a manually added entry. And then in the banking module, you are supposed to match these entries. You'll get this as tax payment, right? Now, why this is important is your Zoho Books runs once you mark your 3BS filed. Your Zoho Books will pass the set of entry automatically. So I'll just also try to do one GST filing. Also quickly showing how you can, I'll just mark it as filed because it's already filed. Right? And OTP will go. I missed couple of questions. Uh, how to create separate bank for TDS receivable? It is simple. Go to banking and just create a new bank and just add manually and just give it the name TDS receivable for that particular year. Shravan Revdi, can you? I think Shravan, I already took up how we can record this. OTP. So I've done a live OTP. Right. So now this is filed. Now once I have filed this OTP, if I go to output CGST ledger. Yeah. So this journal over here, this is automatically published by Zoho Books. On the basis of that OTP that I gave, it interacted with the GST portal and it did this set of entry, right? So it is very important to do this by the system so that all your set of entry and everything is in place. And that is why I said that it is the GST payment is also required to be done via the payment tab that I showed you. Because if you see, it is specifically selecting this ledgers. Now, when we are making those payment entry, when I showed you those challans, we have not selected any of these ledgers. The system is doing it. As a user, you just have to replicate the challan, right? System will select the ledgers. When you are marking a set off, we just have to do the set off and system will select the correct ledgers for you to do a set off. So this is a basic thing that you need to ensure before you do any kind of finalization, that all your payments are through GST payment tab, and all your GST filings you have marked it as filed in GST in Zoho Books. Now the third thing is important thing is whether you have done e-invoicing or not. Now in our case, e-invoicing is not applicable, but normally if an e-invoice is applicable, then our suggestion would be from a finalization perspective over here, you will see one yet to be pushed for e-invoicing, right? So now you are having list of transactions that you have not pushed for e-invoicing. So once again, if there is anything, ideally you should check it on a monthly basis now, because now you cannot do an e-invoice beyond 30 days if your turnover is more than, I guess, 10 CR, right? So, but this is one tab that you should keep a check of. If there is any e-invoicing pending, Zoho Books will give you all the list wherever e-invoice is pending. So once again, very critical from finalization perspective. Now let us go to sales reconciliation. So in sales reconciliation, first of all, I will like to take you through the reports which are available and how they are getting mapped. So in taxes, you will see a GSTR 3B summary report, summary of outward supplies, and summary of inward supplies. And then you have annual summary GSTR 9, which is created after the end of the year. Self invoice summary is your list of your RCM invoices. Once again, GSTR 3B summary report, you can select the period. Okay, so you can run the GSTR 3B summary report for the whole year, GST invoice. Now, if you are running the report, right, first step you need to do is whether this figure is matching with your PNL or not. That is the first thing that you need to check. I'm just taking this up from a demo account. Right, we'll just only one or two transactions are there over here in this demo account. See if there are more transactions over here. Yeah. Okay. So we have got a lot more transactions now in this GSTN. So if you 23, 24, this is your turnover, this is your zero rated supply. The first step that you have to do is whether this is matching with your sales PNL. So as of now, what we are doing is only books to books reconciliation, because a lot of times what happens is that your turnover in PNL is something else, but your turnover in your Zoho Books itself in 3D summary report is something else. So that should not be the case. That is, this is the first recon that you need to run. We're looking at 23, 24. Right? So this is 91, 35, 72, 470. And this is, we need to ignore inward supplies. This is 92.12.61.059, right? So now this difference is a matter of investigation. There is something wrong. You have added either some credit notes in which GST effect is not given, right? Or there are some transactions where you have marked it as out of scope. That is why the transactions are not coming over here. So the tip over here is how this data gets populated over here is if you have marked any transaction as an out of scope transaction in when invoicing, it will not come in this report. If there is any exempt transaction, you have to mark it as a non taxable supply so that this comes over here or at zero rate, right? So any out of scope transaction will not come over here. So this is your first level of reconciliation that you need to do. All this is clickable. You can click over here and you can have your list of invoices for your further reconciliation with actual GSTR1 file. But the first step is to match your 3B summary report with your tax PNL. Once again, ideally, this is something that you should do on a month-on-month basis before filing your GST return. Now, let us come to input tax reconciliation. So your input tax reconciliation, once again, you have got two reports. I primarily go by 3B summary report. Right? So all ITC over here is your eligible ITC. So all the ITC that you have marked as eligible ITC will come over here. So this is your ITC register, basically. Yes, sir. If there are any questions on the GST sales side, we operate a single business where we require to issue GST. However, some customer request non-GST. Okay. You can do both. Okay. You can do both. First of all, you should create a separate template because a non-GST supply would be a bill of supply, frankly speaking, right? It will not be a tax invoice. So you will have to create a separate template format. And when you are sending the invoice, you need to select if it is an exempt item, you have to select exempt. And if it is an out of scope item, you need to select out of scope. And if there are any transactions which are actually where you actually have to do GST, but you are not doing GST, then that is a risk that you are taking in your books, Tanisha. In that case, I would suggest not to have those non-GST invoice in your books. Okay. Any other questions on the GST sales side? Okay. So now we will quickly move to the reconciliation side. Input side. ITC in GSTR 3B summary report will only have eligible ITCs. Now there is a separate report. If you see this report, it is having limited details, right? Now there is a separate report which is summary of inward supplies. So over here, if you see, in this you will get a much detailed report. Once you take this as an export, you will have your vendor name, GSTN ID, bill amount, etc. etc. Now the thing to be careful of or to be aware of is that if there is any bill where you have marked a particular item as an ineligible ITC, right? It will still appear in this report. So this might not necessarily match with the claim that you have taken in your GST return. However, now even if there is ineligible ITC, government is expecting that you put everything under all other ITC and then show it as a reversal while you are filing your 3B, right? So this can help. But our suggestion would be from a finalization perspective is that if you're doing it ineligible, just be aware that GSTR 3B summary report is having only eligible ITC, and summary of inward supply is also having ineligible ITC. So this is very important. If you are giving any statement to, let us say, your GST officer, and he asks for an ITC register, so don't give summary of inward supplies. Give a report from GSTR 3B summary, because your summary of inward supplies is also having ineligible ITC. One more thing from an accounting perspective is that we see that few sometimes, let us say if you have purchased a car and if ITC is not eligible, right? You will do an ineligible over here. So if you are doing it ineligible over here, the GST expense goes to your P&L. Ideally, it should go to your balance sheet, right? So what you need to do is you add the whole car value over here and do this as out of scope, so that it will not mess up with your with your summary of inward supplies and also with your fixed asset register. So as I said, the pro tip is do out of scope in transactions that you don't want to claim GST. Minimize the use of ineligible ITC feature tab. So this was it. I am glad to take your questions. I think we have just finished on time. So KP, if you've got any questions, feel free to let me know.
Nothing as of now, Jigar. I am leaving it to the audience.
Yeah.
Any questions from audience?
If you found the session to be helpful, just give us a thumbs up.
Your speaker. You don't know.
Sorry. How to record? Sorry.
Non-statutory deductions in receipt.
Non-statutory deductions in receipt. Actually, I did not get the question. Yes, so basically, if you're doing it in out of scope, so first of all, your GST expense will not go into a separate GST ledger, GST expense ledger. It will get added to the expense for which you have procured that particular service or goods. Second, that this if you do an out of scope, then it will not come in your summary of inward supplies. So B2C invoices we are not required to push on the portal. B2C summary goes on the GST portal, and that goes automatically via Zoho Books. So because government does not mandate upload of B2C invoices, government just needs total of B2C transactions that you have done during the month, right? So but that data goes to the GST portal when you are filing GST from Zoho Books. So there is So 2B gets reconciled with 3B. In fact, actually, we need to have a detailed session on how to do GST filings. It will take 1 hour. But yeah, Zoho Books has an excellent feature of reconciliation. In fact, Zoho Books also has IMS dashboard now, right? So you can pull the data from GST portal in your Zoho Books. You can do the actions that you want to do on IMS, and then you can push it back to GST portal, right? And all those actions will be updated over there. And same with 2B recon, 2B reconciliation is also available. It will pull all the data from 2B. You can take actions, whether you want to update your books or you want to mark it as pending, and then you can work on it. But this all is very important to do it from day one, or you need to have a proper cutoff date for doing this? Yeah, Pawan, you need to work on your this thing, e-invoice. You need to work on your serial number in this case. Zoho team, if you can help with this e-invoice query. Harsh, will be sharing the recorded sessions individually on emails or
No, actually, we'll take it live on our social media post. From there,
yeah,
people will be able to see that. I'll tag Jigar sir over LinkedIn so you guys can have the recording.
yes. Yes, you can. Sharath, if I'm understanding your question correctly, you want to ask, can we account TDS receivable when you are marking your customer receipts, right? Uh,
Mm.
Correct, Sharath? So you can do that on the gross amount also, because once again, that field is editable. Yeah, TDS template, I'll just show you. My screen is still shared, right?
Yes,
So
it
the
is.
modules. Uh, so when you want, so you can just take a screenshot of this. Everyone can just take a screenshot. And you can, if you want to add certain fields, you can add fields from here, and you can also rename those fields, right? So you don't have to stick with the same nomenclature. If you want to rename those fields, so your export will, Excel will have a different field name. To create a template, just create a new template and you can work on it. You guys can connect with me on my email ID. I'm just sharing my email ID, and we'll be glad to be connected with you on LinkedIn. You can just find CA Jigar Shah. I think I should be there up there. Parvati, I did not get your how much amount we can get the without GST bill. Parvati, if you can explain your question better, I think I will be able to answer it. Yeah, it will not come in TDS receivable summary report. You are correct, Siddhi. Then you need to download the TDS receivable bank ledger and take a pivot, and then you can go ahead and do it. So I think to everyone, Zoho will not be sharing the recorded session on anyone's specific email ID. Zoho team will be sharing it on their social media platform. So you can just keep a tab on that. Harsh, you will be sharing on Zoho Books YouTube channel.
YouTube channel will be there and LinkedIn will be there where I'll be
Yeah.
tagging Jigar sir as well. So if you are following him on LinkedIn, then automatically the tag will come, and from there you can take the social this particular recording for the whole session.
And on YouTube, you can subscribe to Zoho Books. Zoho Books is the channel name, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, it will be there. And I guess they already have a lot of help videos out there. So do have a look at that. So for accepting GST bills from the vendors, there is no limit, Parvati. But if you are giving services to someone, and if you are in a service business, then and if your turnover is more than 20 lakhs, then you have to do GST, go for GST registration. And if you are dealing in goods and your turnover is more than 40 lakhs, then you have to go for GST registration. But when it comes to accepting getting bills from your vendors, there is no limit.
Yeah, I think we have answered most of the questions,
Yeah.
Jigar.
Jigar, I have a small
Yeah.
query here. It is now, if you look at the accounting fraternity or the business owners or any finance department in organizations, they manage their books of accounts and doing this year-end work using different softwares. There are plenty of softwares available in the market. So, did you come across like any situation that in the past, since you handle a lot of clients, that the year-end account finalization has got impacted because of the lack of certain capabilities in the software?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Unfortunately, I have come across such situations. See, I mean, first of all, nowadays software is your backbone, right? Everything is there on online on a particular software, be it a cloud software or a desktop software. And the thing is, there are so many changes coming in from a compliance perspective. Like I would really appreciate that how quick Zoho came up with IMS dashboard, right? And as soon as it was announced, we were ready. So similarly, like now you have got TDS on professional fees, so there is no section code to be added. Now there are few clients who have got their some ERP built in house, or they took some external consultants help for them to really come up to speed and be compliant year on year with all these compliances, with all these new requirements becomes very difficult, and then we have a very tough time for some, once again, simple things like aging, right? So not everyone was ready with their aging reports, not all softwares were there ready with their aging reports. uh, I would not like to like name like and even in, let us, if you're using something like Tally and you have not been doing against invoices since years, you will not get your aging report correctly. But in Zoho, you don't have an option. You will have to tag every receipt with the invoice. Because if you don't do it, you will never get your customer reports correctly, right? So it
Okay.
was for all those who have been using Zoho, it is a by default habit to do against invoice, but that was not there in Tally. So then we struggle with aging reports out there. All those things are there. There are a lot of hiccups which can come up. It is just that because Zoho is catering to variety of clients, they need to ensure that they are staying updated with all the critical requirements. Even something like audit log, Zoho was already having it before it got mandated, right? And then other softwares had to cope up with it,
Yes, yes, yes,
correct?
yes. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. Yes.
Yes.
And anything that you suggest that we should be definitely looking into before evaluating a software? Maybe a list of five, six mandatory things that one should look at before evaluating a software.
I mean, first thing before going to the software, you should evaluate whether your team is ready for the change or not, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
that
yes,
is
yes. Training matters because
training matter. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Many places we have seen there is adoption, but the people are not properly trained. So if the training is not happened, the enough training is not provided because most of the areas there, business owner or the accountant is completely dependent on the staff they have recruited in. So if we are not spending time on building capabilities in them, then for them to navigate to different features also is becoming a challenge, and that is going to affect the account management as such.
correct. So I think the first thing that you need to evaluate is uh, uh, if I mean if it is something that you just started off the business, right? Then it is a different matter. Then you should then there are different criteria to be looked upon. What is it which is easy for you to use? As a owner, you are just starting off a business. You are not having a full-time accountant. As a owner, do you have accessibility? Are you able to navigate with the software? Do you really need too much of technical knowledge, accounting knowledge for using the software or not, right? So the software which is easy to use, that is primarily. Second, uh, to what levels you want to have controls. in your organization, right? So once again, if a small organization, he or she will give access to of everything to everyone. But a larger organization will not like to give access to everything to everyone, right? There will be a sales team which will have access only to sales module, and even in that, only the sales customers, the few salesperson should have access only to their customer. This would be a requirement, right? So this all is possible in Zoho. So what are your business needs, and which software is helping you to attain those business needs is something that you need to go for. I mean, you should not go do it other way around. Okay, the software is providing so much, that is why I should do it. You should see what is your business need and then go for a right software for your business need.
Yes, basically you are asking us to look at the business profile and what is required by the business. Then you look at the fitment, in which software it is available, or the software that you are suggesting is having all the capabilities that the business is looking into or the business required. Then look at the fitment and then match.
Correct. And one more thing that I would like to add nowadays is scalability, right? So decision that you are taking, or let us say if you are a 1 crore business, whether the same software, same system will help you when you are a 100 crore business or not, right?
Yes.
So that is very critical. Let us say if you are at one, whether at least you see whether the same system, same software will help you at 10 CR or not, correct?
Okay.
So the scalability is very important. Like the one thing that I like about Zoho, from a scalability and automation perspective, is that you can create integrations from your website. So you might be doing thousands of transactions from your website, but your accounting is automated, right? So it becomes a scalable thing. Today I might be doing 10 transactions. Tomorrow I'll do with 1,000 transactions. It will not impact my expense will not increase on my resource.
Understood. Yes. So I think, Jigar, there are no more questions to respond to. And if at all there are any questions coming in on Zoho, our team will definitely respond to that. And before that, before concluding, we are coming to the conclusion, I would request Jigar to once again talk about the webinar that is going to happen on at 3 o'clock, the Hindi version, and what exactly you are going to talk about and the points that you are going to touch upon. If you can just throw some lights on that before you conclude, that will be nice, Jigar.
Yeah. So the session that we did right now was specifically only on this three aspects: TDS payable, reconciliation, and GST. The evening session is on complete end-to-end finalization, right? Will include your bank recon, bank reconciliation, vendor, what actions you need to take on your customers, what action you need to take on your vendors, which reports you need to see, what are the things that you need to take care of when you are closing, when you are just about to sign your balance sheet, right? What downloads you need to keep, how do you ensure that okay, no transactions will get changed of prior period. So it is an end-to-end finalization webinar, very critical. I would request all of them who are comfortable with Hindi and who understand Hindi to definitely take advantage of this session. I will ask to all the audience who are coming in evening, how many of them have attended morning session. We'll be taking the topics that we do right now, but it will be in very brief. We will not go in too much detail in evening on the same topics that we did right now.
That's nice. That gives an opportunity or leaves an opportunity for the audience to just log out from this and sign up for the 3 o'clock webinar in Hindi to understand more about what Jigar has to say. So with that, we come to the end of this session, and thank you very much, Jigar, and over to Harsh for just give your vote of thanks.
Yeah. So
Okay, apologies from my side on all the technical issues.
yeah. So again, thank you everyone for joining this webinar. And again, we'll meet you all at 3 p.m. where, as Jigar sir said, that we'll be covering a lot more and everything will be done in Hindi. So yeah, I mean, get your questions ready and be prepared. That session will be actually more than 1 hour. So let's throw all the questions towards Jigar sir. Jigar sir, sorry, I need to do this because that's where you are. You need to answer all our queries. So with that, thank you everyone, and we are signing off and see you again at 3 p.m. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.